Hey guys, so today we are actually starting a new unit, or this week I should say, about social media. And this unit is going to be called Like This because it's like, get it? You like things on social media? Okay, never mind. It's a cheesy joke. Anyway, so throughout this unit, we're going to be talking mainly about the positives and negatives of social media. You probably guessed that based on your Flipgrid assignment from yesterday. But today, we're going to, in this lesson, focus on defining social media and kind of learning a little bit about what is it. Coming up with examples of social medias that are out there that we probably use in our day-to-day life. And we're also going to be starting to touch on the good and the bad, or the positives and the negatives of using social media, because there are positives and negatives. And based on your Flipgrid yesterday, I wanted you to kind of come up with, what do you think about social media in terms of teen usage? Do you think it's more of a positive or a negative influence? And so we're going to be exploring those topics throughout the next couple of weeks in our Like This unit. Okay. So my first question for you is, what is social media? Now we all kind of know what social media is when we see it. We're like, okay, that's social media. That's social media. But we don't really think about what is the definition of social media. How would you define it? So what I want you to do right now, I want you to pause the video and define what social media is to you. How would you describe this? So pretend that someone has time traveled from 100 years ago. They have no idea what social media is. How would you explain it? How would you describe it to someone? Okay, so go ahead and see if you can write out your own definition to this. What is social media? Okay, so now that you've written out your definition of social media, let's see if it matches closely with the actual definition of social media. And I had to improvise a little bit because I do not have a whiteboard in my home. I wish I did. That would be pretty cool. But I have this little sketchboard. So social media is an online community. I'm going to scoot this up so you can kind of see it a little better. An online community that enables users to create and share content and participate in social networking. So if we think about that definition, online community, okay, got that, to create and share content to participate in social networking. If we think about that definition, let's see if we can kind of come up with some examples of social media. And I know that you guys probably know the ones that you use pretty frequently, okay? But right now, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of brainstorm some social medias out there that you know of, okay? So what I want you to do right now is pause your video, and I want you to try to come up with at least 6 social medias that are out there and write them down, okay? So go ahead and do that before we brainstorm together. Okay, now that you've come up with at least 6 social medias, let's see if we can kind of come up with them together on our list. Okay, so some of the things that you probably are thinking of right off the bat is Instagram. Okay, maybe Facebook, although I know for you guys, you kind of consider Facebook like an old person's like social media, even though I don't agree with that. But okay, let's do it. All right, Twitter. I know a lot of you probably don't really use Twitter too much. TikTok is probably something that you definitely have heard of or maybe are a part of. Funny thing about TikTok, I don't have a TikTok account, but I didn't know how to spell it correctly until last semester when some students had to tell me that I was spelling it wrong. I was spelling it with C's, and then everyone kept laughing at me. So I guess I'm old. I don't know. All right, so TikTok. We have, let's see if we can think of some more. I don't know. There's a lot out there, okay? If you're kind of real old school, you might have thought about MySpace. That's from when I was your age. But social medias kind of go beyond just these that you're thinking of, okay? If you're thinking of social media in the terms of the definition that we wrote down, an online community that enables users to create and share information. It really expands what social media can be a part of, okay? So you might be thinking at this point or up to this point, you probably have thought, well, I don't use any of those social medias that you wrote down, Ms. Duval, because my parents don't let me, or I just have no interest in using social medias. You actually do use social media, even if you're not in any of these, okay? Let's think about it. An online community where you can create and share. Create, share information, an online community. If we look at this, YouTube can be considered a social media because you create videos, or people create videos, they share it. It's an online community, people interact, it's social networking. YouTube. Other things that can be considered a social media, there's a lot of social medias that we use even in education, in school, okay? Think about how we've been able to use like online with all of this quarantine stuff going on. How have we been able to learn and do this online? Through social medias, okay? So things like Schoology or Google Classroom, those are social medias, okay? So you might have been thinking, I don't use social media, Ms. Duval. You were wrong, you do. So Schoology, Google Classroom. Whoops, I spelled Google wrong. Google Classroom. At the beginning of the year, you guys were using code.org and Scratch. If we look at our definition, it's an online community where users can create and share information on a social networking type of thing. So code.org, Scratch. Okay. You probably can think of a lot more that we even use in school. Things like Flipgrid. You guys just used Flipgrid yesterday. Flipgrid is a social media. Okay. Now, we can sit here and kind of think of like millions of different social medias because there's a ton out there. But we're not going to do that because that'd be too long. But you guys get the point. So consider that definition. It's an online community where users can create and share medias in different ways in a social networking type of space. Okay. Now, things that would not be considered a social media are like texting. Okay. I believe it's called the WhatsApp app or something like that, where it's kind of like a messaging back and forth between one or two or maybe a group of people. That's not necessarily a social media. It's more so like a message, a direct message. Social media is considered something that's more public, and it's more shareable kind of online on a social network. Okay. What I would like to talk about next is kind of the positives and negatives. So yesterday, you guys kind of considered that question of is social media more of a positive or a negative influence on teenagers? And that question is going to be something that we use to drive our entire unit forward. We're going to be kind of talking about that and focusing on that. Now, you guys probably can think of a lot of positives and negatives. What I want you to do right now, you're going to pause this video and you're going to try to come up with at least 2 positive things about social media use and 2 negative things about social media use. Okay? Go ahead and do that now. Okay, so now we're going to be kind of considering and thinking about the positives and negatives of social media use, okay? So positives, let's start there. So some of you might have written down for positives things like, sorry, I'm moving the camera a lot so that I can see what I'm doing. You can stay in touch with people. So staying in touch with people and kind of interacting through social media, especially in days where we have to social distance, is a really big positive thing in our community. So social media allows us to do that. Imagine if this pandemic happened like 100 years ago or 200 years ago when social media wasn't a thing. It would be really difficult to kind of keep in touch and figure out, how people are doing in your life, because it'd be hard. We wouldn't have that that type of instant social networking available. So that would be tough. So we're living in a good time right now. So staying in touch with people, even people who are hundreds of miles apart from each other. It's pretty cool what social media can do to connect us. Some of you during this pandemic might have even participated in either some Zoom meetings or Hangouts, or maybe using FaceTime with friends. Okay. It's a really cool thing, right? Another thing that could be a positive of social media is learning things. Okay. We think about your Wonder Project. Through your Wonder Project, you might have even watched some YouTube tutorials. You may have read maybe some blog entries or different things that people have posted online from their experiences, you learning about that same topic that you want to do for your Wonder Project. You're able to learn things at your fingertips. Hundreds of years ago, not even hundreds of years ago, even like 50 years ago, 40 years ago, 30 years ago, social media wasn't a thing. You couldn't really learn anything on the internet. Now you guys can Google something really quick and find out the information, or you can post a question on social media and someone could probably respond back to you with an answer to that. And that's a really beautiful thing that you could learn through social media. Okay. There's a lot of different positives and negatives, or positives here for social media, but a lot of the positives kind of fall into one of these two categories, either finding information or finding out different things that you need to find out about, or staying in touch with people. Okay. Let's talk about the negatives. You might have written something down like this: cyberbullying. Okay. People being mean on the internet, cyberbullying. Cyberbullying is when people are purposefully mean and mean repeatedly. So bullying is a repeated offense. So cyberbullying is something that unfortunately does happen, and you have to be aware of that. And in this unit later on, we're going to be talking about if you experience cyberbullying, even whether you're the victim of it or maybe you're witnessing it happen to someone else, what you can do in that scenario to help with that situation. So cyberbullying is a negative. Another negative is fake news or false information. Okay. I don't know if you guys wrote this one down, but, well, my A looks a little weird. There we go. A lot of times people, put their own opinions or even make up information, to post online because they think it's funny, or they want to get a reaction out of people. And a lot of times sometimes that information isn't true or isn't real. So you have to be using your logic skills to kind of make sure that you're thinking about, is this really real news or fake news? And you have to learn how to do some research online to make sure that what you're reading on social media is true or not. And we're going to be talking about that later on in this unit as well. Okay. Another thing that we're going to be getting into later on in this unit is, fortunately and unfortunately, social media is for everybody. But unfortunately, that also means that there are criminals online. So criminals do use the internet, criminal activity. Criminals do use the internet for their own purposes and their own evil and bad purposes. So we're going to be talking about how to identify when you see that happening and what to do. And there's different types of activity that you might see that criminals might be doing. Some of them come in the form of scams. You have probably seen maybe pop-up ads that come up that say, "Oh, you've won a free Xbox," or "Oh, you've won a free cruise." Those are scams. And they're usually trying to fish for your information so that they can maybe even steal your identity or gain information from you that you shouldn't be giving out, like personal information. And there's also online predators, which we're going to be talking about later on in this unit as well, which are people who have bad intentions toward individuals, and even potentially sometimes kidnappings happen from that. So it's really important for you as a middle school student, as you're navigating online, to understand the negatives and see basically how you can identify when problems are happening and negative things are happening online so that you can avoid those situations. And that's why we're doing this social media like this unit. Okay. So I'm looking forward to learning with you more later. And thanks for participating today, guys. Okay. See ya.